Hello, 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 hello. Welcome in to the Lead Audaciously Live. If you are new to me, you are in for a treat. Today we are talking about 3 leadership myths that are keeping you stuck. I am on a mission to help more and more leaders, especially diverse leaders, women leaders, bust through some of the obstacles and hurdles that are keeping us from having the level of influence, impact, and income in our lives and organizations. So if you are here, I am thrilled that you have joined me on this good Saturday afternoon. And I know that our time together will be impactful, powerful, to say the least, because that's how I like to show up. And if you enjoy that type of energy, you're in for a treat. If you are new to me, I am Nkoyo Effiong Lewis, career and leadership strategist on a mission to revolutionize the world of work, one leader at a time. I run the premier social impact strategy firm, Ibanisong Solutions, which comes from the epic phrase for like grounded women, women empowered, strong women. You know, my mom always talks about balance your feet, steady yourself. You know that there is power. As women, we have the ability to create life, nurture and sustain things. And so I channel all of that energy into the work that I do to equip leaders to turn their audacious ideas into actual initiatives and steps that generate revenue, engage stakeholders, and ultimately transform the world. I don't know about any of you. I'm an 80s baby, so one of my favorite cartoons when I was growing up was actually Pinky and the Brain. And so if you don't know anything about it, it was like this mouse, and I don't know if it was another mouse. I don't know. But he was all the time trying to figure out how to take over the world. He wasn't trying to do it for good, maybe for greed, but every day he was trying relentlessly to take over the world. And he had this sidekick who was just a real struggle bus, like always kind of got in the way and thwarted him, prevented Pinky from, ultimately reaching his goals. And so at the end, the brain from doing that. At the end, Pinky would always ask the brain, what are we going to do tomorrow? And the brain would say, same thing we do every day. Try to take over the world. And I think that that's what I've been trying to do since I could walk and talk, but for good. And so I am thrilled to share with you today 3 leadership myths that are keeping you stuck, because ultimately I want to see more of us step up in leadership and actually be able to create and curate the workplaces that we want to see, the impact that we want to see in society, so that we can enjoy more of our time, right? It always really breaks my heart when I hear these stats about how many people are disengaged in their work. They are not happy. There's a whole study about unhappiness that came out and loneliness. And it really hurts my spirit. It really tugs on my heartstrings about that for us as adults living and existing in this world, but also thinking about what we're passing on to future generations. And so it is my mission, my life's work to really help people align with their purpose, attach to the power and positions that will allow them to show up more fully, more happily, more healthily in their work and in their lives. Because I truly believe that one, we're all one being, right? Our personal self and our professional selves, they are the same self and they impact each other. And 2, I have this radical belief that if people were happier in the work that they do, particularly because we spend so much time at work, roughly a quarter of our lives will be, or a third of our lives, will be spent working, that if that experience was better, if it better aligned with our vision, values, and the versatility that we desired for our lives, we might be able to show up happier, healthier, and more whole in other settings. And that's actually been my personal story. I've had an opportunity to work in an industry where I felt alive and thrilled all the time to do that work. Thought, oh, this is, that was a fun thing to do. Now I'm going to go be serious and collect this law degree and do what I need to do as an attorney. And the experience for me in a lot of the settings outside of when I went into practice on my own were really disheartening. I didn't feel like I could be my full self. I wasn't really taking care of myself in a lot of different ways, and it showed up in how my relationships with others were, my spending, the types of things that I was eating, so on and so forth. And so if that's your story, I want you to know, first and foremost, I share that because you're not alone. There are a lot of us who move into these positions and think that, great, when I get that title, when I move to that step, or I work for this company, things will be great. And we have a very rude awakening that's very jarring for the spirit. And I like to say that I think that that was a great wake-up call that I had to be deliberate and intentional about designing the life that I want and the work that I want. Because I'm going to be honest, I enjoy working. My husband will tell you, like, I love to work mostly because I love what I do. I love having the opportunity to help other people realize their true passion and elevate their leadership so they can have more influence and impact and income in the world. And so today we are going to talk about the 3 leadership myths that are keeping you stuck. And at the end of this, I'm going to share with you an offer to move forward and really start to unlock your power, your potential, and your purpose. And so I hope you stay to the end so you can hear about that. But in the first instance, what I want to make sure I do is help you at least identify these myths that are keeping you stuck in your work. And this is relevant to you if you work for someone else, if you're running your own organization, if you're in the for-profit space, nonprofit space. Like, leadership is leadership, public or not, like, leadership is leadership. And so I think that these things are important as you are thinking about having more command over your time and talent and using that ultimately for good. So let's get into it. First and foremost, the first leadership myth that's keeping you stuck is this belief that you have to earn the position through time. I can't tell you how many times I go to organizations and we talk about succession planning and how they're thinking about, which is really leadership development planning, honestly. They're thinking about the next person who's going to come in or who their replacement is, and there's either no plan or they're just like, we're just going to promote whoever's been here the longest. Yikes! Time is not a key indicator in whether someone is or can be a great leader. And so if you are currently thinking, I'm just going to bid my time, I'm going to wait to move up the ladder, I'm going to wait for my turn, once I get here, after I put in X number of years, X number of hours, then I'll be able to be the leader. I'm sorry to break it to you. That's a myth. That is not how impactful or effective leadership arises, right? Like, time in and of itself is not a key determinant of whether you're going to be a great leader or leadership is an opportunity for you. In fact, leadership is a lifestyle. It is a set of habits and mindsets and actions and behaviors that attract other people to you. I always like to say that leadership, one, is an inside job first, because again, I said a lot of things that have nothing to do about outside credentialing, right? Your own vision, your values, your mindset, your behaviors. Those are the types of things that people are drawn to or not. And then on top of that, you can lead at any level. You don't have to necessarily be in a certain position to be the leader. Leadership is often about influence. It's about your ability to cultivate relationships and leverage them towards an outcome or a good, right? One of the things that I didn't know when I moved from being an individual contributor who could get a lot of things done, right? I was a phenomenal teacher, if I do say so myself. Although, it's a different time and place. I don't know how well I would fare in this current education setting. But I was a solid teacher. My students got results, and we did that. They asked deep, imploring questions. It was great because, that's what I really vibe with. But going from being an individual contributor to having to lead other people or coach other people to outcomes was an entirely different set of skill sets that I didn't realize I needed to have. It involved more communication. It involved more engagement, more buy-in, more thinking about how you influence people, how you get impact outside of yourself, right? This exponential impact that I talk about often is figuring out ways to align yourself with others so that it's no longer a one-to-one transference, but like a 1 to the 10th to the 1,000th power in terms of doing that. And actually, true leaders are building other leaders. They're not holding all the power. And so time by itself does not predict whether you can do those things. I imagine that in your setting right now, if you're feeling that itch, like that leadership is a part of you, if you're struggling in your work, it could be because you're a leader and you want to do things differently. You have ideas, you have thoughts, you have a point of view that you share, whether it's warranted or wanted or not, because you feel deeply that something can be done a different way. And then the other piece of that is figuring out how you engage and motivate others to work with you on that path. But the first, none of that, again, is tied necessarily to time. There's time in building relationships, absolutely, but not necessarily just sitting in a role for X period of time would then propel you into a leadership position. So if you've been holding on to that myth, I just got to put in more time over here, I need to spend more time in this role, I want to let you know that that is a myth and that you have a leadership opportunity that's probably available to you right now if you separate your ability to lead from how much time you've been doing something. 2, the next thing that is a leadership myth that is keeping you stuck is that you just have to work harder. That in order to be the leader, you have to be the hardest working person in the room. And I say this, and I know y'all are going to be like, what is she talking about? Like, leaders need to be hard workers. I'm not saying that you're not going to be a hard worker, but I am saying that if you are in your job, in your organization currently, if you're in your role, and you think that if you just take on more assignments and projects and do them really, really well, if you show everybody that you're a hard worker, that you're going to put in the time, that you're going to come in early and you're going to leave late, and that those characteristics alone are going to propel you to leadership, I am sorry to tell you that that is not truly how it works. I was reading an article the other day, which was powerful because it reminded me of so many experiences that may be relatable to you. And so they were talking about hiring and how, when you hire, there's always risk involved. There's just always risk. I'm an attorney. I'm going to tell you that, we can do a lot to mitigate risk, but they're never really going to fully eliminate risk. And so no matter how many steps, how many interviews that you have in your interview process, you can't completely reduce the risk that you might bring someone on and it just not be a fit. And, we all take our representatives to our interviews. It's easy to do and talk about the work, and it's a very different thing to actually do the work, to be in a culture, an environment, and see if that really fits for you over the long haul. So there's always risk involved. So when people are thinking about, okay, someone is leaving, and if they haven't had a succession plan, which unfortunately a lot of organizations don't, especially in the nonprofit space, almost 70% of nonprofits do not have a succession or leadership plan. It is a disaster. Please, we could really do better than this. And I actually help organizations develop a leadership plan. So plug on that. But if you don't have one, what often happens is someone retires or, leaves for whatever reason. And then the company is like, great, we either are just going to promote whoever's been here the longest, regardless of whether they have the skills or ability to actually lead others, which is a very different skill from whether they can do the concrete work, or we're going to hire someone to come be the leader, and we're going to ask that really hard-working employee of ours, the one who comes in early and leaves late, who makes sure that all of the projects are done well with excellence, to train their supervisor. Anybody had that experience? You can send me a message about it later. But I know I've had a number of friends and colleagues who we've had that very conversation about, can you believe They hired this person out of here who has no idea about anything, and then they want me to teach them how to do their job while they get paid double whatever it is from me. Let me tell you something. Here's the reality. If they bring in that leader and that leader's not super great, doesn't work out, what they do know is that they have you, super hard worker who gets the job done, comes in early, leaves late, make sure things are up to the level of excellence that we need, to fall back on. So if that guy doesn't work out, like, at the end of the day, we still know that this department, this division, this scope of work is going to move forward because we have this really great, hard-working employee who's here. And that's the conundrum, right? Like, that's the double-edged sword. That when you're really, really good at your job, people sometimes don't want to move you out of that job because they don't know whether the person who comes behind you will be great. And most of our organizations don't have leadership development plans. They don't have career advancement plans for every single person in that organization. So if you move, now they're like, who's going to do this? And if we have to bring in someone and take on that risk, we'd rather bring them on above you because we know that at the end of the day, you'll be there to make sure that everything works out. So if you think I just need to take more on more projects, I need to be a hard worker, I need to just show everybody that I'm going to do whatever it takes, and that alone is going to bring me to leadership, I am sorry to tell you that that is a myth. Instead, what you need to do is start showing people that you have the ability to make tough decisions, that you have the ability to engage your coworkers, to inspire them to actions, to be influential, to think big on strategy, so that people start to see you in a leadership position as someone who can create vision and lead that to outcomes, and not just someone who can take a project and make sure that it's delivered with excellence. So again, we just went through 2 of the 3 myths that are keeping you stuck. First, that you got to just put in time and spend a lot of time, and then you'll be dubbed and knighted the leader. Second, that if you just work harder or work more, that you'll be a leader. And I should have mentioned this because I said this on the IG Live, that every time that I have moved up in leadership, I have actually done less of the actual work. Why? Because my job is not to do that. My job as a leader now is to inspire and influence others to outcomes, which is an entirely different skill, right? Being an individual contributor is very different from being someone who gets results through other people. It requires a lot of different skill set. And so if you think that I'm just going to keep working really, really, really hard and then I'll be able to move up into leadership, I want to let you know that you actually have to make sure that you are a hard worker, that people see you as a hard worker, as disciplined and reasoned, inspiring, and able to have influence and communicate with others, because it is those other softer skills that will be what allows you to advance into leadership and as a result, more impact, more influence, and more income. And the third and final myth that is keeping you stuck right now in leadership is that you have to have the title, or somebody has to give you the title of leader to be the leader. And so I want you to think about how bizarre that is, right? When we think about leaders, right, we're people who forge their own path. They go out there into the unknown. They have a vision. They create a strategy to bring it about. They get other people to buy in and be a part of that process with them. And we're like, oh, that person is a great leader, right? They're bold, they're courageous, they're thoughtful, they are endearing, right? They are motivating and captivating in different ways. And then we think at the same time, someone has to come and tell me I'm the leader before I'm the leader. It doesn't work that way. As I mentioned at the very top of our conversation, 1, leadership is an inside job, but 2, you can lead at any level. And I really want people to embrace that, internalize that you can lead at any level. You don't have to have the title of leader, director, VP, CEO, executive director, whatever it is, to be the leader. I'm in a position now in my 9-to-5 where I have a team. And one of the things that I say to them all the time, that it's my job to build up their leadership capacity. I truly believe that that's what leaders are supposed to do. Leaders create leaders, that this is a process of building other leaders, and I need to be intentional about helping them to develop the skills so that whether they want to stay at our organization or not, they are always on an upward trajectory. I am very intentional. If I were to win the lottery tomorrow and decide that I could, retire on whatever island or beach, I already know who would be able to fill that position for me because I have been intentional about curating opportunities for that person to be able to assume more leadership. And I think that that's really important in every organization, that if you are a leader, that you are thinking about how you're building more leaders and how you're sort of developing that succession plan so that the impact continues and to reverberate even when you're not there. But here's the thing I also tell them. You can lead at any level. You don't have to be the director of this to take ownership and responsibility over the work that you're doing. You don't have to have a title for that. You don't have to have a title to offer influence and inspiration and motivation to the people around you. Someone doesn't have to come and say, you're the leader, you get to do that. These are things that are actual characteristics, habits, attributes that you can be honing and developing every single day. One of the things that I have always really enjoyed about the leadership development work that I do, the leadership coaching, etc., is speaking with people and hearing what their vision is, what their values are, what they desire for their life, how they want to show up, and helping them connect with opportunities to do more of that. And watching that light sort of go off around, wow, I thought about this and I was able to figure out how to make it happen. I think that probably comes from my time teaching, because that used to be the joy of my life while I was a fourth grade teacher, is watching the light sort of go off for a student and them understand that they have more power and knowledge and abilities than they did before. But when we're thinking about leadership, like, you can be the leader right now, and those opportunities will find you. Once you go within yourself and declare and decree that you are a leader and you're going to operate as a leader, even if you're in a role where that's not your title or salary, and we can talk about how we make those things line up, because listen, we're not out here to just do really great work and still be broken, burnt out while we're doing that. That doesn't ascribe with what I think the world and what joy and hope and wonderfulness looks like in the workplace. So we can absolutely figure out how we create that blueprint to get you to that place. But until you've decided, until you've resolved and declared for yourself that you're a leader and you're going to approach everything that comes to you as a leader, it'll be harder to get there. And so that third and final myth is that you don't have to have the title to be a leader. You can lead at every level. It's literally a lifestyle. It is about the mindset, the habit, the vision, the values. All of these things are internal. Your ability to inspire and influence others. None of those things are connected to a title necessarily. A title offers additional credibility, right? My title at my job lets people know, well, at the end of the day, I got to listen to her, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to have some bumps and bruises along the way. Because again, my ability to get other people to move towards audacious, ambitious outcomes is tied to relationships. It's tied to trust. It's tied to influence. It's tied to my integrity and the way that I show up every single day, my consistency and discipline, but not necessarily just because I'm the director or, that I have that title. And so I want you to know that you can make the decision and resolve within yourself that you're going to lead at every level, and people will start to respond to you differently. And then if we get together and work on your actual breakthrough blueprint, we can unlock that power and make sure that you are positioned for leadership opportunities, whether it's internal at the organization that you're at, whether those are ancillary to your work, or if you transition entirely. And this applies also if you are running a company or an organization. I can't tell you the number of times I consult with folks who are running businesses and they are exhausted, frustrated, not making the type of money, not having the types of clients they want. And when we talk about how they are operating, what is clear is that they aren't the one assuming, hey, this is my business. this is how we do things over here. These are the boundaries. This is the direction. I will listen and learn alongside you, but ultimately I'm going to make decisions. I'm going to set up structures. I'm going to operate in a way that conveys to you and mostly to myself that I am in charge and I have the ability to make decisions. And so if you want to move forward, we are almost halfway through 2023. If you want to make sure that you end this year fully stepping into your power as a leader, I want to invite you to join me inside of my Unlock Leadership Coaching Series, where we spend a period of time, 3 months together, 90 days, really unpacking your leadership style, what your strengths and areas for growth are. I'm a strengths-based coach, so I really focus on what do you do well and what do you want to do? What is your vision? What are your values? What type of versatility do you want in your life? And help you to create those experiences so that you can ultimately have the influence, income, and impact that you desire in your life. And so if that is something that interests you, that excites you, that's got you like, hey, I want to learn more, I encourage you to send me a private message or a DM. I don't know which platform you're seeing me on, but let's get in conversation. You can schedule a discovery call. We can talk a little bit more about your leadership journey and what you're looking to get out of your career and life, because again, these things are tied together. And we can go pursue that influence, that income, and that impact so that you can ultimately be living the life that you actually desired. I always tell people, yes, we talk about, go talk to, if you could tell your younger self something, what would you say? I want you to ask yourself, if your younger self, you're more naive, free, happy-go-lucky, just the world is my oyster self, could speak to you today, what would she, what would he, what would they say? Let's go back to that last time where you felt the most alive, the most powerful, the most potential to do and see and experience things, and unearth what was there and try to build and recreate that in the here and now. And with that, I will turn you back to your weekend. Again, please send me a message. It is truly my life's purpose to make sure that I am helping to create more leaders, that I am aligning more people with their purpose so that they can have the position, power, and opportunity to do the incredible things on earth that they were created to do. And so if you are like, hey, I really want to make sure that I leave this life empty, that I gave everything that I had, and I was pleased with the efforts that I made to move forward on not only the agreements and the hopes and dreams and promises I made to myself, but the impact that I know I was created to make on earth. Let's get in contact and make sure that we are designing your blueprint to do just that before the end of this year. And with all of that, I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. Don't forget to go lead audaciously. Take care.